Top of the morning. I'm Steve Eizant. We're on the Constellation in the Inner Harbor in beautiful downtown Baltimore. It's a little drizzly today. Normally we have better shooting weather, but we're under canvas, so we're dry. We have a great show coming up for you. We have Ulysses E. Campbell. He's going to be on in just a moment, so please stay with us.
It's all happening in this one neighborhood called downtown Baltimore's West Side. Infectious, fashionable, full of vim and Baltimore vigor, I walk the West Side streets these days in amazement at what it's become. I'm nuts about downtown Baltimore's West Side. You will be, too.
Well, welcome back. I'm with Ulysses Campbell, and he is the founder and organizer of the Fantastic Forum.
Producer of the show, indeed.
And producer of the show, and director, and all of that. The audience is probably saying, all right, Fantastic Forum, what is it? Ulysses, what is Fantastic Forum?
Well, first, thanks for having me. It's a delight to be here on this wonderful show, and with you. I've seen some shows, and I'm honored to grace the deck of the Constellation with you.
It's a great place to be on the deck of the Constellation. It's our viewers already know it's a little overcast. We've got some rain on the canvas up there, but we're dry, and that's what counts.
Absolutely. But Fantastic Forum is a half-hour segmented television program about comics, science fiction, fantasy, and their related multimedia. I've been producing the show for about 5 years now. We've got 37 episodes in the can as of this instant. I'm working on number 38 as we speak. It's primarily a discussion program. I get 4 comic book geeks together, and we will discuss everything from serious subjects like creators' rights to something frivolous like who's stronger, Superman or the Hulk, and everything in between.
Who is stronger? or were they able to determine that?
Well, we could debate that ad nauseum, but I can tell you, they say the Hulk is the strongest one there is. The madder he gets, the stronger he gets. Me personally, I say Superman because Superman can move planets out of orbit, but I suppose if you got the Hulk angry enough, he probably could move a planet out of orbit.
All right, well, hold that thought because we've got a clip coming up, so let's take a look at that clip.
What you're talking about started with Angel in the Buffy series, that angst-ridden, sympathetic,
the vampire with a soul.
This huge level of pathos for this character, and I think that everything that we've gotten after from Edward, what's Edward's last name?
Cullen.
Ugh. Well, everything that we've gotten afterward is, to some extent, different versions of the Angel trope.
I was just thinking, how Drew was mentioning that the modern day, the real recent vampire stories, you always have this, there's this angst and this sense that the vampire is not like other vampires, and I'm different.
Yes,
I stand out. I love you. And then we talk about the interest in vampire young adult fiction, which is I guarantee that's one of the biggest segments of the youth, children's, whatever you want to call it, book market nowadays.
Huge.
It all kind of makes sense because you have these preteens or teens that are at that point in their life where the hormones are raging and they don't know what the heck is going on and they feel outcast and different, and I guess there's just something about that sort of literature that really appeals to them.
But what is it for the women that drives this? We understand the teenage girls. What about the women?
Well, I mean, the vampire's sort of that guy that exists outside of society. He doesn't have to worry about mortgage payments. He doesn't have to worry about raising a kid or driving the car to carpool or things like that. The vampire doesn't exist within those constraints. Right. He doesn't have a day job, obviously.
He's mysterious.
He's mysterious. He's got, like you say, possibly hundreds of years of experience. He's been places. He's done things. He's sort of the bad boy for grown-ups.
Yes,
too.
and when he says he'll love you forever, that takes
really
on a whole new meaning.
All right, well, we're back. That was an interesting clip.
Well, thank you. That was one of the more serious, well, I shouldn't say more serious. That particular show was, it's one of the ones I'm most proud of. The discussion point, as you could tell, was vampire fiction. We also discussed zombie fiction in that particular show, what with the popularity of all these various things like The Walking Dead and Night of the Living Dead and various such things. But we interviewed on that show Charlie Adler, who is an artist, who is currently the artist who is drawing The Walking Dead comic. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, now, in the prior segment, we had a discussion on who is stronger, Superman or Hulk. So for this segment, who's stronger, zombies or vampires? or do we even know?
Well, I tell you, there was a lot of talk. I mean, not so much about necessarily the two of them going up against each other, but the attributes of zombies, the attributes of vampires, particularly in terms of the way that people react to vampires and zombies. I mean, I can tell you that in my day, because I'm an old guy, but in my day, vampires were undead creatures,
right,
and you wanted to put a stake in their hearts. But today, of course, your teenage daughter might want to date a vampire, as we've seen through the Twilight series.
Things have evolved, and was it a wooden stake or a silver stake? I forget.
Wooden stake. Silver actually worked on werewolves.
It did.
Not many people know that. Yeah, they've sort of mixed up the various genres and so.
All right, well, hold that thought because we're going to have to take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't touch that remote. We're back. In that prior segment, you heard a laugh in the background. We're on the Constellation. It's an active working ship, so occasionally we'll have some interruptions. I mentioned the rain before. But let's get back to talking about those vampires. And you're right. And you and I, maybe we're about the same age, or at least you're right. I wouldn't want my daughter to date a vampire, but she might want to do that. And what about zombies and brains? There's always something going on there.
Well, you've got quite a few people who apparently are concerned about a coming zombie apocalypse. Now, this is nothing I'm worried about, but hey, what can I tell you? All sorts of people.
Well, are there any defenses against zombies?
Well, actually, there are publications that will talk about how to defend yourself against a zombie attack. Again, I have not taken the time to familiarize myself with all of those because zombie attack is not something I'm concerned with. But I'm told if you burn a zombie or if you can spike them in the head, you want to destroy their brains because the brain apparently becomes animated and that's what animates the zombie. So if you can destroy the zombie's brain, and I'm not just talking about severing the head because surprisingly enough, if you do not destroy the brain, the body can continue functioning even though the head is severed.
I think I've seen that. Now, as I recall, a strand of garlic only works for werewolves. Is that right?
That's vampires.
Was that vampires?
Yes.
Oh, I thought if you made a sign of the cross, then the vampires would...
Well, that works on vampires as well. Holy water,
right.
Garlic,
yeah.
sign of the cross, sunlight is the best one.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant, or is that a political statement?
Little of both.
Well, what works for... I'm going to hold that thought because I know you've got another clip, so let's go to the clip.
Logansport is an average American town in northern Indiana with a population of 18,396 and pretty much everything you'd expect in a middle American community. There are supermarkets, strip malls, churches, and restaurants. But Logansport is also the home of fiberglass freaks, where you'll find a very unique product. It all begins here, in a nondescript building at the intersection of Elm Street and Erie Avenue that looks more like a warehouse or storage facility. But much like the well-known disguises of superhero lore, the unassuming outward appearance hides something extraordinary. When ABC TV approached renowned auto customizer George Barris,
This is how it all begins, with a fiberglass car body that we mount to a 1970s Lincoln Town Car. The fiberglass car body comes out of a 22-piece mold, and we assemble the entire body here at the shop. And the car body comes out of the mold as a one-piece body, so there's nothing grafted together. And then we have a separate hood, doors, and trunk lid, and that provides a lot more strength to a car body to do that. And it's a little bit rough, as you can see right now, and then we do a lot of body working to work on the seams of the car to start to smooth it out. We cut open the areas for the hood, the trunk, and then make it a very, very smooth transition from this to the next step, which is over.
That was great.
well, thank you. That is another show that I'm extremely proud of. Fiberglass Freaks is located in Logansport, Indiana, and I took a crew out there. The gentleman who runs the concern is named Mark Rakoff. You saw him introducing the construction process, but several years ago, they got the official license from DC Comics to reproduce the 1966 Batmobile from the old ABC TV series. And they have been cranking these things out for the past couple of years, and it's an absolutely fabulous car. I wish you, in fact, you're going to have to take a look at that entire show, because they talk about the living legend nature of this particular car, how the Batmobile is going to outlive all of us. In fact, Adam West, who some of you may know is the star of the Batman series, who also recently got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Absolutely. But he said that this car is an icon that will outlive all of us. And it was tremendous getting the opportunity to ride in it. Mark Rakoff told me that he gets a lot of attention when he pulls up into the drive-thru at McDonald's in the car, and people are all plastered up against the glass looking to get a look at it.
Well, now, wasn't there just recently some guy in Rockville driving a Maserati in a Batman costume?
You know something? I know that guy. You know that guy? I know. I'm going to out him. His name is Lenny Robinson.
Okay, Lenny, if you're watching out there, we love your car.
Yeah, well, he used to, he's a business person.
Right.
Used to have a company that I did business with back in my other life. And apparently he sold that. And one of the things he does now is dress up like Batman and go entertain, children in hospitals and that sort of thing. And in fact, he was on his way to just such an engagement when the Montgomery County Police pulled him over.
We seem to be in comparisons this morning. First it was Superman versus the Hulk, and then zombies versus vampires. Which do you think is faster, the Ferrari or the Batmobile?
Oh, the Batmobile, hands down.
Hands down.
You see the fire coming out of the back of the thing?
Oh, if it's got fire, then it's got to be fast, right?
Absolutely.
Do you actually know what kind of engine is in the Batmobile?
I do, but I've been sworn to secrecy.
Excellent answer. You mentioned just a moment ago that our viewers really should watch the entire show. How can they do that?
I'm delighted that you asked me that.
I really were hoping that I would ask you that. So how do they?
Well, you can visit my website, which is www.fantasticforum.tv. And on the website, we actually have a number of shows linked. I have some that are uploaded to the various storage sites around, like YouTube and Vimeo and Dailymotion and Metacafe and Blip TV and so forth. But all of those are linked to the website. So if you go to the website, all you need to do is just click on one of the icons and you can watch any one of my myriad shows.
All right, and that particular show is important, but we're going to talk about it. As soon as I get my tongue out of my teeth here, we're going to talk about that some more right after the break. So please stay with us.
Okay.
Welcome back. You might be able to hear it's raining a little bit harder, but we're still dry. Our producer wanted to know during the break, do you have any clips on me about me?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do. And if you'd like to throw us to that, the audience can take a look at that.
Let's take a look.
Who writes women well in comics?
You got to give props to Gail Simone. She writes balanced characters no matter who they are. And there are some nasty women in the Secret Six that...
and you need that. You need that balance of different personality types. Eden was saying something very similar earlier.
Yeah, I think that, you know, there's sort of this pressure for like strong women to be flawless, and that's not what I want. I want them to be well-rounded people. I want them to have things I can relate to, and it's okay if like maybe one character is always chasing men and another woman's not interested in that. It's like, because, you know, there are different things that appeal to different people. Absolutely. And not all female characters have to be everything to everyone.
So you're a big indie comics fan. Who does a great job in indie comics?
Well, Strangers in Paradise by Terry Moore, it kind of fell apart towards the end, but still really fun. It's kind of a soap opera. You know, a lot of other indie people like Alison Bechdel with Fun Home.
Oh, yeah.
You know, very autobiographical. And, you know, so there's a lot of that women are doing, like trying to tell their own stories.
Well, how'd you like that?
I loved it, and you know what? Our producer did too.
Yeah, well, that was a special show that we did because I try to do themed episodes frequently. So this particular one was about women working in and women's portrayals in American comics. And as you saw, I had a predominantly female panel for that episode, and there was a lot of great discussion that came out because, surprisingly, there are a number of women who work as writers and artists in the comics industry. Many of them work for independent comics as opposed to the larger companies, DC and Marvel. But it's a very thriving and vibrant sort of concern. All these women are incredibly creative, and the work they're doing is absolutely fabulous. And I encourage all the viewers to take a look at a lot of these independent comics and the work of women who are extraordinary in terms of the stuff that they're doing, the groundbreaking sort of fiction that they're creating.
If you had to pick one or two favorite women characters, I know there's a lot of them, but who comes to mind that you want to share with our viewers about?
Well, I think some of the better-known female characters are, of course, Wonder Woman, who unfortunately gets a lot of bad press. I mean, a lot of people, don't appreciate Wonder Woman. She had been created literally to give young girls a heroic figure that they could want to emulate. Another one is Storm from the X-Men, who is also very well known today by virtue of the 20th Century Fox films that have come out. So, those are several of the ones that I'm fond of.
Okay, good strong portrayals. You've got several more clips. Let's take a look at the next one.
You list my credits, and I realize in listening to that to a profound extent, I consider myself the great American comics journeyman. Okay? Because unlike a lot of my colleagues who are committed to doing this sort of book or that sort of book, one guy's a Western guy, one guy's a war guy, I feel I can provide work of that quality, of a certain quality, on any kind of genre I'm confronted with. Right. Which makes me an odd bridging link to the previous generation. Because the guys who I read growing up were guys who could do anything. They did westerns, they did war, they did romance, they did science fiction, superheroes. But the only thing I can't feel comfortable doing is teenage comedy and funny animal stuff, because I just suck at it. Right. When I started writing my own stuff, was that there was a niche that had not really been filled in comics. Right. And that I felt comfortable trying to find a way to evolve an effective anti-hero in comics. There really hadn't ever been, which is an odd thing when you think about it. Yeah, there really hadn't. Because it exists across the board in fiction of all sorts, in film.
Yeah, that particular one, because one of the things that we do on the show, one of the things that I'm most proud of are the interviews. And we'll interview some industry person, either a writer or an artist or an editor. That particular clip was Howard Chaykin, who is a very well-known comic book writer. Been writing comics for a number of years, the creator of American Flag, among others, and he was very entertaining. Matter of fact, we caught up with him over at the Baltimore Comic Convention, which of course, as your viewers may know, is one of the largest regional conventions. It's become very well known, and I understand talking to the organizer that the Baltimore Sun has the Baltimore Comic Convention listed as number 8 on the all-time top 10 list of events that occur in Baltimore. So I was delighted to be able to attend and to catch up with Mr. Chaikin at that delightful convention.
When is that convention normally held? What time of the year?
It's in the late summer. I believe it's early September this year. I want to say the first week in September, but if you go to www.baltimorecomiccon.com, you can find out all about that too. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I'm wearing a t-shirt.
All right, very good. Very good. Well, our rain seems to be letting up a little bit, but we're going to have you back when it's a bright sunny day. Normally when we film Top of the Morning, the sun is shining, the seagulls are flying around, but this has been almost close to a deluge, and I don't know whether you brought the rain or...
Oh, don't blame me for that.
All right, I won't.
One of the things that I am most proud of with this show are the discussions, because in fact the way that I got the idea to do the show in the first place, I was hanging around one day at the comic book store where I shop. New comic books come out every Wednesday, and got into a discussion with some of the people who were in there. And this particular store is fascinating because I've shopped for comic books all across the country, and this store is somewhat unique in that the manager encouraged conversation among and between the various people who shop there. So in any event, we're talking, and I started thinking, I said, some of these conversations are pretty darn interesting. We could probably get a show out of this, and that was what led me to do the show. But what cemented it was the young lady who was in an earlier clip, Shireen Nicole, who was one of my co-hosts, because as you saw, Shireen is a beautiful woman. When I first saw her in the comic book store, because typically the women you see who are gorgeous, who are connected with the comics industry, are always there because of their boyfriend or their husband or something like that. Well, I went into the store and Shireen was there, and I asked the manager, because the only people in the store were the manager, Shireen, and me. And so I went up to the guy and I said, "Hey, where's her husband? Where's her boyfriend?" And he said, "Man, she's in here because she likes comics." And I was like, oh my God, and here I've been married for 17 years, too late. But, she was the X factor.
This is a new place to meet women and men at the comic book store?
Hey, it could be.
If you're unmarried, of course.
Yeah, but, and she was the X factor, because without her, it's just a bunch of fan guys acting the fool, But with her, I hopefully, some of the fanboys will want to tune in and check her out.
Ulysses, this opens up a whole new area for me, and I'm sure for some of our viewers as well. So how can they get more involved?
Well, you can go to my website, which is www.fantasticforum.tv. And we've got a contact us page. There's an episode guide. We've got links to all the various shows that are up, all the features, all the interviews, event coverage. And I frequently, when I do particularly the events, we'll give contact information for whatever event it is. There are links to some of the other things that we've done. In fact, just this past weekend, I had the privilege of attending the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America Nebula Awards in Crystal City, Virginia. This was the 47th annual award ceremony, and I was absolutely delighted to be there, because one of the goals of this program, as you can see if you go to the website and you look at programming information, is to promote interest in literature, particularly science fiction and fantasy literature. And I realized, much to my chagrin, that I had been absolutely terrible at doing that. And so, this presented a wonderful opportunity to go out and, cover this event that, is all about learning and books and reading and all that, because, you kids watching out there, you need to read. Get up from behind that console where you're playing the video games. Read a book, learn something, feed your knowledge.
Well, I think you've raised an excellent point that I just want to touch on or re-emphasize a little bit more. A lot of people, when they use the word comic books, they think more of the comic as opposed to the book. But you raise an important point here. In literature, getting people to read, getting them interested in those kind of things is so important.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we're losing a lot of that. So, like I said, I'm delighted to just try and do something to sort of help keep that spark alive, because, future generations learn by virtue of what we have done and what we have recorded on paper.
They certainly do. An important point. But we've got another clip. Let's take a look.
Now, when you come back from the clip, and Batman is like the Swiss utility knife of like comic books. He can be whatever you need him to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
and there's
the
and there's,
recent- I'm sorry,
and there's and there's no character that really serves that same kind of role in Marvel or DC.
Yeah,
you know.
because it's interesting that you mentioned Superman. Of course, you got to mention Superman when you're
Right.
talking about Batman.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like Batman can do what Superman can do, in a way. But you couldn't picture Superman doing anything that Batman can do, detective-wise or anything. Because
Right.
I mean, he's Superman. He can walk into a crime scene and see DNA or whatever. Batman has to work a little bit at it, but he can jerry-rig something where he's pretty powerful in any given situation, and he has to think his way out of it.
But the versatility of the character really is amazing, because even with all of the various Elseworld iterations, all of the variant parallel types of Batman, you can take the origin story and transport it to almost any time or place, and it works. You know, I mean, you can do Viking Batman, you can do Cowboy Batman, you can do Japanese Samurai Batman, and it doesn't, and they all work just with the same sense of justice. So that's the thing that's always amazed me. It's such a versatile character.
That was great.
Well,
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That particular show was a character profile episode on Batman, The Dark Knight. Of course, you know, there's yet another film that's coming out this summer. You know, the final of...
Let me just, apologize for interrupting. We just heard some water falling off of the canvas over there. It's still raining, so pardon the interruption, but I just want to let our viewers know what was happening off camera.
I understand.
This is active happening, but I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And so the panelists in that particular clip were talking about some of the various aspects of Batman and, you know, who he is, why he does what he does, you know, getting kind of esoteric with it. And that's one of the things that we have a lot of fun with, because, you know, you give somebody a topic and they just run on with it and have an absolute ball.
Well, you've asked a question that our viewers might want an answer to, and that is, why does Batman do what he does?
Oh, he's totally sick. He's sick. No, he's on a holy mission because he witnessed as a 8-year-old his parents being brutally murdered in front of him, and he became unhinged. And the way he looks at it is crime fighting is a holy mission to which he has dedicated his body and his mind. And Batman was always one of those characters that a lot of kids really liked because, well, you know, hey, let's face it, you can't be Superman. Bullets don't bounce off you. But Batman, you could read, study, learn, train your body, you know, physically, mentally, to actually become Batman. And believe it or not, and when you have me back, I'll talk more about this, there are people who run around as superheroes in this day and age. You know, honest to goodness, this is true. They're in every city. They are running around the rooftops. I've seen it, and I'm going to do a show about it.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're just about out of time, Ulysses. I want to thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Fascinating. I hope that you agree. This is Top of the Morning. I'm Steve Izant. Thanks for watching. And we're done.
music out. And that's it. We got